Each and every sales presentation that a distributor salesperson makes should include a profit story.
Guys, this is Sid Patel here, live from Chicago. I'm the CEO of Beverage Trade Network and USATT Trade Taste. So I have Jason here with me joining me, and we're going to talk about sales training and really about objection handling and a little bit of asking for a sale, right? And also, most importantly, how you are going to sell your profit story to the retailer. So Jason, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little context here?
You bet. So my name's Jason Steffens. I'm training manager for the eastern half of the United States for Deutsch Family Wine and Spirits. So you might recognize Deutsch from incredible brands like Josh Cellars, Yellowtail, Redemption Whiskey, Gray Whale Gin, and I'm here at the USA Trade Tasting with Sid. So we're having a fantastic time.
Super. So I think, we forget that brands are made in US especially. I can say that it's really the push and the sales approach. So if the Yellowtail was a number one wine brand at one point, I'm sure they put a lot of Josh, and same thing. So they can make brands. That's where we're going at, right? It's the salespeople that make brands. Let's go on a couple of things that you said, Jason, which is selling the profit story to your customer. So I love that. So let's elaborate on how to do it and what do you mean by that?
Oh, fantastic. I think so many suppliers, when they work towards introducing a new product to a distributor or getting out in the market, it's all about the selling story, it's all about the brand, but we forget to tell the profit story. Ultimately, the buyers that we are working with, the accounts that are selling our products, we want to make sure that they have a solid understanding of how to tell the profit story, not only how that affects the distributor that they're selling our products, but the customer that's going to be displaying our products. So it's important for suppliers to have a solid understanding of business math. They need to understand margin, markup. They need to be able to look at an item on a shelf and identify what the target margin that account, whether it's on-premise, off-premise, or corporate chain, is using. And then from there, we can actually apply that to our product and talk about the profit story based on the deal.
Understood.
So if we're talking about, let's say, 35 points of margin, we want to be able to extrapolate that out to what that profit means, not only on the bottle sale, the case sale, but the 5 and 10 case sale. So telling the profit story, each and every sales presentation that a distributor salesperson makes should include a profit story. What is their return on investment? So business math is a big part of success in the supplier world.
Coincidentally, when I had my own wine brand, it was an Australian wine brand called Friday Monkey. Okay. Exactly $6.99, $7.99, competing with Jacob's Creek, Lindemann, and Yellowtail, right? So my profit story was, hey, Yellowtail cost is $4.99 to you. I'm bringing it $4.49.
Oh, you're competing against my brand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then you sell the same, and you make more margin.
Yes.
Give me that 3-case tag. I'll come Friday and Saturday. So give me some examples of this kind of stories. Is that what you mean? Suppliers
Definitely
should really have written as one profit story example, 2 profit story
Not
examples?
necessarily written down. I can tell you that where a lot of distributors and suppliers go off is they try to put it all into a sell sheet.
Okay.
And they try to deliver that sell sheet to the buyer and say, here's the profit story. There is nothing more valuable than being able to pull out a blank sheet of paper, a pad of paper, and stand next to your buyer and say, okay, Sid, we're talking about 5 cases, and you make 35 points of profit.
Got it.
Here's your profit per bottle. We're going to take this times 12 times the 5-case deal. This is your return on investment. This is why it makes sense to do business with me today.
Got it.
That is so much more powerful, being able to walk to the side of that customer, the side of being able to deliver that presentation, show them the profit story, and then pull the trigger on the close.
What is the title of that document you guys use? Profit story?
Yeah, it's the problem. It's being able to make sure that every presentation you make to an account buyer includes a profit story.
And in that you have a mixed case, 3-case, 10-case,
Sure,
25-case?
Definitely. But you may have those as notes. Don't necessarily have all that built
Understood.
into the selling story
Understood.
on a sell sheet, because that loses the impact. You earn the trust of the buyer by coming alongside them and doing the math in front of them.
Got it. So, for the premium brands, yes, you can make 100%, but how much is going to move?
Right.
So you can always write like, okay, $12 and sell it at 25. I mean, I can also sell buy at 50 and sell it at 200. You know what I mean? But how are you going to? At some point, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a number.
You have to make sure that when you're pitching a presentation to an account buyer, that you understand what type of an account it is and what is the target margin that account operates on. So margin, markup. Obviously, when we see in the off-premise, it's more margin focused. In the on-premise, it's more markup focused. But you need to be able to walk into an account and get a feel for how that account likes to actually mark up their wines and spirits.
Got it.
So remember that the equation for margin is profit minus selling price, right? Or divided by selling price will actually give you your target margin. So that will show you how much margin that account is buying. So if you know your brand is already in the store, if you know the price of acquisition for Yellowtail or Josh, you have the ability to say, okay, they're buying it at a cost of acquisition of $10, they're selling it at $12.99, so they're making $2.99 profit on each bottle. We take profit divided by selling price, take that amount times 100, that's the target margin. And every time you deliver a presentation to that buyer for that category, you want to provide them an example of how much money they're making based on the target margin that they operate on wine and spirits each and every day.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you have like A, B, C scenarios of profit margins? Maybe as you said, like one retailer wants to sell Yellowtail at $8.99 or $9.99, and one wants to move because they want to make sure consumers feel good that they are getting the best value there.
Right.
So
Definitely.
do you show them different
we can
pages?
suggest. Traditionally, I'll offer a suggested selling price based off the target margin of the account, and then offer a pulse price.
What's that?
So let's say if the target price based on 35 points of margin is $12.99, they may want to pulse at $11.99, but they need to understand the difference in their overall return on investment by pulsing.
Got it.
So always start with the regular shelf price.
So it's a good idea to have the
and then
standard
pulse
12,
back.
and then you show them maybe $1 more will give you this margin.
That's right.
All right. Got it.
Definitely, and especially if you've got price support built into the deal structure, where maybe you've got free cases in states that allow free cases, or maybe you've got to buy 3 cases, get 1 case, no charge. Set the target margin price based off of regular sales, and then show them how they can pulse for this intro buy, so they're making more margin on the entry level once you get that new distribution in place versus down the road. I really tell people, don't bastardize the price. It's very, very hard to raise price down the road. Set it high, pulse it, set it at that target margin, pulse it where need be when the deal structure supports it, and then go back to that whatever's recommended from a pricing strategy standpoint.
I agree. So I think if you're even thinking of putting your wine at $7.99 or $8.99, go with $9.99 and go back and give deals and program it, because you will need that, and that's how you think it's better to grow depletions.
That's exactly right. So if you make the placement right, you support it with programming, pulse it when the deals are on, you're going to have a nice, solid foundation to build a long-lasting relationship with that customer versus just trying to close the deal on price. Because once you sell it at that discounted price, guess what? They're not going to buy again unless you can make that exact same discounted price.
True, and I'm sure by your experience, we always think that the second order, I can go back to that thing, but it's always more and more and more, right?
But that's one of the things when we talk about closing techniques.
Yeah, so let's go there.
Yeah,
you also said 3 types of closing, and give us a breakdown of closing.
Listen, there are 21 different closes that we use in sales tactics. Really, in the alcoholic beverage industry, there are 4 to 5 main ones that we use. The first one that we predominantly use is the choice close. So for instance, let's say that you have identified a need inside of an account. You have brought 2 items to meet that need. You tasted through those items. They liked both of them. You can position it as between choice A and choice B, which one of those did you like the best?
Very nice.
Right? So you're offering them a choice. If you offer somebody one item, the answer could be yes or no. But if you offer them a choice, statistics show that 80% of the time, the customer's going to choose one of those 2 choices. So let's say you're going out to dinner, right? And you're out on a nice night out on the town, and you offer your date a choice. Hey, are we going, where do you want to eat tonight? Well, guess what? Sometimes that can be a harder conversation. But if you say, what sounds better? Italian or Mexican?
You can always say,
hey!
do you prefer Tuesday to go out or Wednesday to go out?
That's exactly right.
Got it.
So by offering a choice, so that's the choice close. Many times too, we use what's known as the fear close. The fear close is also known as just the fear of missing out. So for instance, if we're talking about limited allocation items, limited inventory items, your wine that you launched got 92 points in Spectator, you've only got 25 cases left in this specific state that you're working, the buyer likes it, but they're saying, oh, maybe I'll wait until I run through this varietal or that varietal to order it in. You can say, listen, I know you like it, just full disclosure, there are 25 cases left. So if you decide to wait till next month, I can't guarantee you're going to get any of it.
Do you think
so
that
if you want it, order it
that
today.
can come as a rude or ego sometimes?
Not at all, not at all.
Okay.
So especially when you look at limited inventory items that are seasonal. So many times in the distributor world, we utilize VAP or value added pack around the holidays. We see this creep up in chain stores, indie stores, usually around the time of Thanksgiving, all the way through to the new year.
Got it.
And those stores are highly allocated, value added packs, and we want to make sure we get them out of our warehouses and into the stores.
Got it.
But they don't like necessarily to count them as inventory, so people will delay bringing them in. But if you can say, listen, based on the entire state, we have this many cases, your allotment is 5 cases, 10 cases, if you want it, you have to take it now. I can't guarantee you're going to have any after December 1st.
Got it.
The fear close, or fear of missing out on an opportunity, works very, very well as a closing technique.
Nice. What else?
So really the needs-based close. There's no better close in the entire industry than being able to ask questions of your buyer and find out what they're trying to achieve with their program. When you can ask questions of a buyer and identify where the need actually is, the gap in their program, whether it's cocktail-based, whether it's wine-based, when you have that and you say, listen, coming back in 2 weeks later, say, Sid, we were here 2 weeks ago and we had a chance to talk about opportunities in your wine program, and you mentioned to me that you had a ton of crisp and clean Chardonnays, but not a lot of oaky, smoky, malolactic based fermentation Chardonnays, and that was something you were really open to talking to. To that point, I threw a couple in the bag today. How about we sit down, taste through them, and see what makes sense? We taste through 2 or 3 different options. I turn it back to you. Based on your preference of what we've talked through today, which one of these 3 best meets your needs?
I'm sold. Jason.
You're sold, right? So the needs-based close is going to work better than virtually any other closing technique that's in your arsenal.
And then what about assumptive closing?
The assumptive close. I mean, assumptive closes can be fantastic. Distributors utilize assumptive closes very often when they're interacting with buyers that they've had relationships with for a very long time. I will caution anybody who's watching this video, do not throw the assumptive close out the first time you're meeting someone. You don't have the ability to read the conversation, to read the buyer in a way, and it might come across as being too pushy. But if you, let's say, for instance, you are tasting through a product that you've identified as something that is a gap in that person's wine portfolio, wine program, and you see that they're smiling and they're asking questions and you're conversing. It's a two-way conversation. They like the wine, they like the selling story, they are picking up what you're laying down, right? At that point in time, you can say, if you want to pull the trigger on the assumptive close, looks like you're aligned, we can go ahead and send a case in on Thursday's delivery. Now, some people will also try to link the assumptive close with what's known as the hard close. The hard close is the first one that every single person learns whenever they get into sales. I have to deliver a compelling sales presentation, and then I have to get you to say yes, Ed.
Correct.
I need you to actually say yes. So I say things like, a case on Thursday's truck. Sound good? Sound like a plan? Look, he's buying from me already. He nodded. He said yes, right?
I would use like, did you like it first, right? Did you taste? Is the pricing right? So a couple of yeses.
Exactly, but I got to get a yes.
Yes.
Because that way I know you're accepting the sales proposition. That's the hard close, right? So it is the hardest close.
It is a hard
make
close. Okay.
By its very
I thought that
nature.
was the traditional.
It's the traditional, but it's not the one that's going to get you the most yeses.
Okay.
So the vast majority of distributors do not spend time on training their salespeople on different closing techniques, because you can't use the same one every single week. These guys are interacting with the same restaurant owners, the same buyers. You got to be able to change it up. The assumptive close, the summary close,
so
the hard close.
The first new buyer, I'm cold calling, I don't know you, I'm walked into your store, that's where you suggest not to use the assumptive, right? But then what do you advise? Like, all right, Jason, glad, just wanted to say hello, I'll come back next week.
That's a great point. As a supplier or a distributor?
A brand or, I think brand, because distributors already know accounts most of the
So
time.
if we're talking about a supplier, and when you're walking into the account for the very first time, unless it's a scheduled market day with your distributor where they are picking specific accounts and that account knows that you're coming and knows that you're going to pull a bottle out of your bag, I would refrain from actually walking into that account with a wine bag.
Got it.
right? Walk in with a business card. Your goal when you walk into a new account is to ask a lot of questions. And you need to actually listen to the responses.
True.
What are you trying to achieve with your wine program? How do you do staff training in your establishment? How often do you change your wine list? How many times throughout the year do you change up your cocktail program? It can't be closed-ended questions that can be answered with a yes or a no. You want to get them talking. You want to get them engaging.
Understood.
But when you walk through the account with a wine bag and you've got a 12-bottle bag, that buyer sees you as someone who is trying to separate them from their money.
True.
That's it, right?
I agree.
And I can tell you, as a guy who owned restaurants for 10 years, right? I hated it when suppliers would walk through the door, unscheduled appointment, and they've got 12 bottles in their bag. And I'm like, you're killing me, man. I've got pieces of equipment that have broken down. I've got people who didn't show up for shifts.
True.
I got to run to the store to pick up 4 different things that didn't make it on my food truck. And now I've got to be nice and talk and walk through your bag. You are wasting your breath if you try to deliver a sales presentation.
You rather win on the relationship and the likability.
That's exactly
and
right.
let the salespeople then later on leverage that.
Walk through the door. Let's have a conversation. Find out what my needs are. Now, you're not going to be taking notes. You're not going to be saying, okay, so tell me about your wine program. Oh, okay. Oh, how many times do you do a staff training throughout the year? No. Take the notes, ask the follow-up questions, and then say, listen, I'm going to be back in this area a week down the road, 2 weeks down the road, on the 14th. What works better for you, 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock? I'd love to sit down, show you a couple of my products, and see if it makes sense for us to do business together.
Understood. Back on that distributor sales reps knocking new accounts, just real close there, which is what advice would you do with their first new person, on the closing?
The first time that the person walks in, they need to probably stick to either the choice close or the need-based close. So the choice close, offer 2 different items, walk through those sales presentations, being able to actually taste, get liquid to lips, and then say, of these 2, which one did you like better? That's going to be the easiest close that they can actually get that day when they're brand new, just getting started in the business.
Super. Any inspiring closing remarks to our sales champions out there?
Oh man, I tell you, listen, just the simple fact that you're watching this video is huge. We need to have a growth mindset to where each and every day we are stretching our skill sets to learn new and different ways of going to market and working with our distributors. So thank you so much for taking this time to watch this video, and Sid, thanks for having me.